Welcome back.
Well, another episode of the Satana political debate program, telecast on our sister channel, Sirasa TV, was held at the Stein Studios in Ratmalana yesterday.
Yes, that's right. Participants engaged in a heated debate on Chogam 2013 during the program.
As Sri Lankans, this is an occasion where we should be happy that our country has a peaceful environment, security and political stability. Following the 1976 Non-Aligned Movement Summit, foreigners have not even looked at Sri Lanka, let alone hold an international summit here. Sri Lanka had been named a nation of cannibals. Thereby, we need to take this positive picture to the rest of the world and create a positive environment within our country. The Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting will go a long way towards achieving this. While we are speaking here at this moment, the price of a kilo of Bombay onions is 240 rupees. Even during the time of the Grey War that he spoke of, big onions did not climb in price to 240 rupees a kilo. It is in such a situation that the major Commonwealth exhibition is being held. We have no problems. The world must progress. That is true. We cannot live in isolation. But do we have the same rights that they have in all other Commonwealth nations? No. We are not kneeling before imperialism, as the Honourable MP says. Why are they saying no to this? What will happen through holding this here? When speaking of it from an economic perspective, some people say that certain costs are too much. A cost must be borne to hold this because it's the heads of states that are coming here. They must be welcomed. They cannot be accommodated at normal hotel rooms. They must be accommodated in good rooms. They must be given good vehicles. You cannot have one vehicle for the person coming from England and another person who is coming from Africa. They are state leaders. They must be treated well. This is a government that has even stolen Sarath Fonseca's pension. So there is nothing to be said about them stealing public property. This government is stealing this property in an indirect fashion. They take the money from the other side, lay some stones on the road, make the heads of state happy and lead the people astray. This country needs a powerful opposition. It should be transformed into an opposition that is anti-established corruption. The Democratic Party is working towards this.
David Cameron has become the first foreign leader to visit northern Sri Lanka since 1948, where he met with Tamil leaders. Prior to his departure to Jaffna, the British Prime Minister expressed these views to the Reuters news agency.
Well, we're both sovereign countries and we should have these frank conversations about what happened in the past, particularly as the dreadful civil war ended, but also conversations about human rights in Sri Lanka today. And the plain truth of it is this, that if I wasn't here, I wouldn't be able to make those points. And I think that's the right thing to do for Britain and for Sri Lanka.
A group of 40 persons accompanied the British Prime Minister on his visit to Jaffna today. Meanwhile, demonstrations were staged in Jaffna near the Nallur Kovil and at the Thurayappa grounds by families of missing persons. The group had also arrived at the public library in Jaffna in the hope of meeting with Cameron. Demonstrators spoke to foreign journalists outside the Jaffna Public Library. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister David Cameron met with Northern Province Chief Minister C.V. Vigneswaran at the Jaffna Public Library today. Following this meeting, Cameron also visited the offices of the Udayan newspaper in Jaffna.
Meanwhile, joining an interview on CNN, the Sri Lankan High Commissioner to the United Kingdom said that Sri Lanka was perfectly capable of carrying out its own domestic inquiry.
Surprised at the amount of criticism of your country holding this Commonwealth Summit that we're hearing internationally.
No, I think that what you have to understand is the context. We've had a 28-year conflict with terrorists, and finally, after 28 years, we achieved peace in the country under the leadership of His Excellency President Mahinda Rajapaksa, and finally everyone's free of the autocracy and hegemony of terrorism. But one has to understand that there's a tremendous influence from those who funded the terrorist conflict, who are now carrying out really proxy propaganda war. So no, it's not surprising at all that the proxy propaganda war is continuing.
The fact that there are still these allegations out there of alleged war crimes in the dying hours of the campaign to oust the Tamil Tiger, why not address all of that? Why not put all of that to rest by starting an independent internet investigation into everything?
Because we respect the independence and sovereignty of your country, and we expect you to respect ours. We don't need an international investigation when we have had a vibrant civilization for 2,500 years. We have perfectly educated people, and I think we're perfectly capable of carrying out our own domestic inquiry. The Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission, it is important for you to understand, is not based on the principle of punitive justice, where you punish people. It is based on the principle of restorative justice, where each one gets an opportunity to be able to hear what went on, whether the victims or the perpetrators, and that's the essence of the LLRC, and it's the similar report and the similar principle behind the TRC of South Africa.
And tonight on Words of Wisdom, we take a look at the thoughts of Queen Elizabeth II, the Commonwealth leader, on strength through unity.
Whatever life throws at us, our individual responses will be all the stronger for working together and sharing the load. Queen Elizabeth II.
Now, subsequent to the executive sessions, a press conference was convened by the Commonwealth spokesperson and the spokesperson for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting 2013 this evening.
Let's now have a brief listen to some of the views that were expressed.
I'd like you to clarify, if you could, Madam, exactly why the President has chosen to cancel this important news conference. I want to ask you directly as to whether it was because he may not have wanted to face some very, very difficult questions.
First, Richard? Well, that is entirely an inaccurate assumption. It was not cancelled because of on a presidential order. As Richard previously described, this happens to be a matter of circumstance where the meetings ran long. So it was not that the president said, I don't want to do this press conference. In fact, we had originally planned to do two press conferences, the pre-Chogam one and the post-Chogam one. And it was the president who actually said, no, let me do all four. And that's why we had scheduled 4 press conferences, and we made this announcement at the first media briefing that we had. So it was not because of any, and in fact, I mean, you were not here at the first press conference, and he did face some very tough questions, as you may have put it. And, he faced them in the sense he answered them. He did not back away from them. So he has no issue whatsoever. And I'm sure you would agree, because he has invited many of you for tea. So that says that he is not at all, staying away from facing your questions.
Deliberating, and they will continue to deliberate, and that's the only reason for which this evening's press conference was called off. That is the only reason. It's a logistics. It's for reasons of logistics.
Now, those were responses posed to a question by Channel 4 journalist Jonathan Miller. Now, a heated situation arose at the press conference presided by the Commonwealth spokesperson and Sri Lanka spokesperson for the Commonwealth 2013.
Yes, good evening to all of you. My name is A.H.M. Azwa, a citizen of Sri Lanka, first and last. Now, there have been several questions asked from the podium, from the chair, about the human rights violation. Whose human rights have been violated? Very much. You know, there's Jaffna, the British Prime Minister is there today. 75,000 of the Muslims were chased away. That was the Tigers. Then, why don't you, the Commonwealth now, at least probe into those things? So, sir, I am only asking you, human rights violation. You know about the child soldiers. Their rights were violated. Why don't the Commonwealth probe into that? This is why I am asking. Our President is not shy of answering any questions or attending any press. Then my cry, and Channel 4 is present in this hall, is ample evidence to show how democratic this government is.
a lot of bad things happen in war, and it happened, in this case, it happened on both sides. You know, listen, no, sir, you've spoken, I've heard you. Sir, we're not going to, sir, please. I can understand the emotion, I can understand the anger. Sir, if you want me to respond, we'll either sit here and say nothing, or if you want to engage in dialogue, let's do it in a civil manner, sir. Please, let's do it in a civil manner. You are a minister.
Still in local news, former parliamentarian Dinesh Dodanggoda has issued a response to media reports pertaining to the arrest of an individual who was a passenger in his vehicle near the UNP headquarters Sirikota last evening on suspicion of being an LTTE cadre.
Yes, Dodanggoda says that he is making this clarification since the incident, which was given immense publicity by certain media institutions, could serve to tarnish his political, social and professional life.
Dodanggoda in his communique says that the individual in question was a member of the Navasama Samaja party from the north and that he had allowed him to get into the vehicle since he had requested to be dropped off at the Fort railway station. He notes that the vehicle was inspected by the police as he left Sirikota. Dodanggoda in his letter says that the passenger was arrested to ascertain if he was a terrorist or not and that he and his vehicle were released. The communique notes that the arrested individual was released the same night by the Miruyana police following questioning. The police media unit says that the individual who was arrested while travelling in the vehicle of former parliamentarian Dinesh Dodanggoda yesterday was released on police bail. The police media unit says the suspect was released on police bail after inquiries conducted by the Terrorism Investigation Department and State Intelligence. The police media unit said that the individual was arrested and he was unable to prove his identity and he was released once his identity was ascertained.
Now, last night on News First, we pointed out to our viewers an individual who was acting in a disruptive manner near the UNP headquarters Sirikota in Pitakotte.
Yes, our intention was to ascertain the identity of this individual.
We have received a large amount of information regarding this person. When we made inquiries this evening, the police said that they have not arrested this individual as at yet. If the police are facing obstacles in arresting this individual, then we are prepared to reveal this identity to the country.
Now, speaking at a media briefing convened today, Project Minister Rohitha Abegunawardene expressed the following views regarding the events that unfolded near the UNP headquarters Sirikota yesterday.
මේ ආණ්ඩුවක් ලබා ගන්නෙත් නැතුව අද තමන්ගේ පක්ෂය කෑලි කෑලි වලට කැඩිලා ඒක ඇතුලේ මහා මතවාද හැදිලා
They are not even in the government and they have fractured into pieces with different ideals. And when the Mahasangha come to their party office to discuss some issue, what do? Is this the stance of the UMP? We ask people like Karu Jayasuriya who are in this party if they are not ashamed to remain in this party. Aren't persons who behave like great Buddhists ashamed to remain in this party? All of them were inside Sirikota watching on as the Mahasangha was insulted. Channel 4 journalists who were trying to destroy the country were garlanded and welcomed by the UMP. Is this the responsibility of the party? We ask if this is the responsibility of the common opposition in the country.
UNP එක මල් මාලා දාලා පිළි අරගන්නවා. මේකද පක්ෂයක වගකීම. මේකද මේ රටේ පොදු විපක්ෂයේ වගකීම කියලා අපි අහනවා.